Hi there. I'm Josh Holmes, and I'm doing this little series on resume tips. Okay, so today's tip is about what do you call yourself on your resume? Okay, so the first and kind of the biggest, fattest, meatiest tip is don't assume that the reviewer of your resume understands how titles and rankings and acronyms work at your company and your organization. Just don't assume that, right? So when I see a resume come in and it's got SE2, okay, I don't know what that means, right? Is that senior engineer two? What's the two? I don't understand the two, right? Is that also is that I don't know, right? SE, is that senior engineer, is that software engineer, is that strategic electrician? I don't know what that means. Spell it out for me, because I don't know how your organization does acronyms, titles, rankings. I just don't know, right? Secondly, the recruiting team at a larger company is going to be looking for the experience, because I've said I need 5 years worth of experience of a software developer. They're going to be looking for 5 years worth of experience as a software developer. They can make the exchange for software developer, software engineer, sure, but SE2, what does that mean? They don't know what that means, right? So don't assume that. Second tip from Danny Thompson, D Thompson Dev on Twitter. Definitely follow him. Great inspirational guy. His title, his tip was, don't artificially, on your own, level yourself and potentially level yourself out of position. Right? If you put junior on your resume, well, what does junior mean to you? That may be different than what I know of as junior, right? And so as I'm looking at, don't calibrate yourself. I'm going to calibrate you as an interviewer. I'm going to calibrate you in the interview process, and I'm going to give you a job offer that is appropriate for the calibration that I gave you, right? If you artificially calibrate yourself, great. I'm going to assume that that's true, and I'm going to calibrate you at that level, and I'm going to give you an offer at that level. What if you're better than that calibration? You don't know. I don't know until we actually get in. So if you were an SDE2 or an SDE1, again, I don't know what that means as far as ranking goes, but also leave it off. You're a software engineer. You're a software developer. Put that on your resume. Tip number 3, this is from Michelangelo Van Dam, Dragon B on Twitter. Again, great community guy, great inspiration. He said, if at all possible, without lying, use the actual job title that's in the job description as your job title, right? So if it says software developer and you were a software engineer and that was your official title, great. Make the transition. Call yourself a software developer. Now, if that's a lie, right? If you were actually a program manager and you're becoming a dev, no, call yourself a program manager on the resume, but put in the job description, the one sentence prose line underneath your job title. I was a program manager. I did XYZ as a program manager, but I also wrote this code, and so I was a software engineer as well. Right. Quick other tip: principal, PAL at the end instead of principal, PLE. Two different things. They sound similar. They are different words. Last tip is don't use cutesy phrases to describe yourself that are very much open to interpretation. Okay, so I've seen 3 come in recently in this last batch of interviews that I read. It was technocrat. I don't even know where to start with that one. I have no idea what that means. Usually that means that I'm done reading your resume, because I literally don't know what that means. You're making me think. I have to interpret it. And I don't have the context in my head that you have in your head when you put that on your resume. Alchemist. Okay, alchemist. You're applying for a software engineer job, and you're an alchemist. Well, I'm thinking, well, you're mixing chemicals. Okay. You're trying to say that you're a change agent. Okay, great. Well, say that. I'm having to interpret it. I don't know what you are. I don't know what that means. I don't have that same context in my head. So dumb it down for me a little bit. Code artisan. Okay. I know what that means because I've been to enough conferences where I've seen some people describe themselves as a code artisan. I think it's great. My recruiter doesn't know that. My recruiter is going to look at it and they're going to go, well, they're not a software developer. And they may filter your resume out because you used a cutesy title that was up for interpretation and they don't know what that means. And they interpreted it differently than software engineer. Well, that's not their fault. Okay. Use standardized job titles, software developer, software engineer, et cetera, et cetera. And then, you can put in the pros, code artisan, where you get to describe it a little bit better, or better yet, tell me that you're a code artisan in the interview process where you actually have time to explain what that means in full. And I get to question you about it so that we can come to a common understanding rather than me trying to interpret what's in your head when you put the cutesy title on the resume. So that is the big tip for the day. The very, very high level summary is use standardized job titles. Okay. And, but the longer summary is don't assume that the reviewer of your resume understands how leveling, titles, especially acronyms, work inside of your company. Number 2, don't artificially level yourself. Number 3, if at all possible, use the job title that is actually in the job description. Principal versus principal. And then don't use cutesy phrases to describe yourself that are open to interpretation. Yeah. So with that, thank you very much. As always, feel free to follow me on Twitter, Josh Holmes. Feel free to check out my blog, joshholmes.com, and also feel free to subscribe to the YouTube channel. I will put a link to the YouTube channel in the blog post. So with that, thank you very much.